Only smallpox can be eradicated for several reasons. The main reason is that it has a related pox virus that can be a substitute for it, and because there are pus pockets. These pus pockets, this is a representation of the skin, and a pocket of pus has formed, and they discovered that if they took a sharp pronged object and stabbed it into this, they were able to get the macrophages and the live brick-shaped smallpox viruses and contain it into a localized area into the arm. Because normally the virus would enter in through the mouth, enter in through the center of the body, and then dissipate out into all the extremities and overwhelm the system. This way, though, by putting it just on the arm, you are containing it. And they did this for a while. They would pass these smallpox-contained pus pockets on their arms from human to human, of which a percentage did not go well. And then they discovered using cows, which was much safer, there was a better outcome, and they began to do that. How did they do this? They would take these cows and stretch them up on a rack. This is my representation of that. They have the front legs tied together and the back legs open so the stomach is exposed. Then they're putting 100 cuts into the stomach that they're infecting with the cowpox and growing the material for the vaccine. So from the records I've seen, 23 calves can produce about 4,600 tubes of vaccine, out of which you can get numerous vials. But prior to that, the people had to come to the doctors who had these cows nearby. They started doing this in 1796, and they did this all the way up till 1967. They used cows to grow the vaccine for smallpox, and it was called Dryvax. Finally there was a product that came out that had a name to it that they were able to pass around. It came out in 1931. It was glycinated calf lymph vaccine. It says right on the little jar. You'd get these little tiny vials, and within there would be 100 doses. Again, you take the little pronged fork utensil, and within it you can get a drop of the pus liquid with the live virus, stab it into the arm 15 times, 15 jabs, and deliver 100 million live vaccinia viruses. Vaccinia being the cowpox virus. You would get one or relative of it, because to say what that is today after all the passes it's done and the genetic differences, but basically it's the same thing. You get one dose of it for life, and this eradicated the disease in the 1930s. Now, the one dose for life was in the best case scenario. The first test that was ever run was run by Jenner on a young man named James Phipps, who was 8 years old, and Jenner back in the late 1700s gave him the cowpox, and then repeatedly infected him with smallpox to prove that he was right, which he did prove. But that is in the best case scenario. And this vaccine is the gold standard for all other vaccines, especially the live viruses. But because it has a substitute cowpox for smallpox, that makes it the gold standard that no other vaccine can achieve. Because all the other live virus vaccines are a continuation of the virus to avoid. For example, in GenBank, what they call GenBank, the gene bank, a few years ago that they used for viruses, the measles virus, they discovered, out of the 80 strains that they had in the bank, new strains, 40 of them were from vaccines. Because what the viruses do is they're trying to find the best host for them to continue their survival in. They're selecting them in a sense by picking up the host genes and then utilizing them to see which serve them the best to reach an equilibrium within that host. And so here's a representation of a virus, this red thing here, and it's going to infect a population of people, and there's going to be different reactions. There's going to be the mild reaction, a percentage are going to have a bad reaction, and a percentage are going to be damaged. The equilibrium is reached when there is more, the cases are more mild than damaging. And so by vaccinating, we are infecting everybody, of which a percentage will come out badly. And that fire line infection that we're doing is actually creating mutants that continue to mutate. And we're quickening the virus evolution. For example, we use the polio. So we have polio, measles, mumps, rubella, and varicella. The polio, they're very, very strain specific. There's no other species within polio that you can use as a substitute. No other enterovirus. These are the genuses here. Within the genus of polio virus 1, 2, and 3 are very specific, and they cannot substitute each other even. So this became a problem when they were giving out the oral polio virus vaccine, which is a live vaccine, and it was creating new strains, so they have abandoned that one. Also, people are familiar with the varicella, which is actually the human herpes virus 3. People are more familiar with human herpes virus 1 and 2, which are the simplex viruses. Yes, these are the herpes cold sores. And the number 3 cannot, not only can the simplex viruses 1 and 2 not substitute for each other, they cannot substitute for 3. But this live herpes virus, which is different than the rest because it does assert itself into the DNA of its host, it is infecting everyone. So it is the very same virus that you want to avoid your children exposure. The difference is that smallpox, you can use a substitute within the species. They can be used interchangeably and within the family of pox viruses, which makes this smallpox virus a very unique virus for us to eradicate. And that possibility is not so far for the other ones. So smallpox is the only one. It's the only one. Thank you.